exposing the power of Africa's youth in green tech. This is how they're shaping a sustainable future. Africa is buzzing with potential in green technology. With abundant sunlight, vast wind corridors, and untapped geothermal treasures, countries like Kenya and South Africa are pioneering renewable energy. Imagine solar farms in the Sahara powering entire cities, or wind turbines along Namibia's coast generating clean energy for millions. But the real game changer? Africa's vibrant, innovative youth. They're brimming with ideas, turning challenges into opportunities. That's where Climeactions steps in. We're a youth-focused organization driven by a mission to empower the next generation with green tech skills and passion. From high schoolers to young professionals, we're building a network of future leaders in climate action. Join us on this journey to a sustainable future. Together, we can transform Africa and the world. Welcome to Climeactions.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to you from wherever you're joining us from. I am Chimne Favor LSC, your delectable host, and I have the incredible honor of welcoming you to the Horizons of Green Tech Africa event 2025. Yes, and on behalf of Climeactions, I'd love to thank you so much for being here with us. And trust me, this is history in the making. And everyone, I'd like to see your emoji in the comment section. Yes, I want to know if you're so excited as I am today. Yes, I'd like to get your emojis in the comment section. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. So just before we get into what we have for you today, I'd like to know your name and where you're joining us from. Tell me in the chat box your name and where you're joining me from. Yes. That's beautiful. Beautiful. I still will have people from across the world gathered with us here today, and I'm so excited to have you here today. So, just before we get into what we have, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you here today. Technology has really changed the way we live and work. Things like artificial intelligence, smart devices, data analysis, software development, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and blockchain have made different industries faster, easier, and much more efficient. But when it comes to things that help protect our environment, like solar energy, smart farming, recycling waste, eco-friendly buildings, electric cars, and ways to reduce car pollution, Africa is still left behind. We've not just utilized these green skills the way we should. Now, these green skills are very important because they not only help protect the environment, they can also help young people with practical knowledge and hands-on experience to get good jobs in high-demand fields. So, while information technology skills are great, green skills can open doors to well-paying jobs, and at the same time, you'll be helping to save the planet. And I know that is what you want to do, right? And that's why at Climeactions, we're building the next generation of problem solvers who will create smart solutions for climate issues. We're all about sustainability and green technology. Now, when you think of solar energy, when you think of smart farming, recycling waste, and using tech to protect the environment, think Climeactions. Our goal is to help young people discover careers in green tech and climate innovations. We want to help you open your eyes to future-proof jobs like renewable energy, green tech design, and environmental data science. Whether you're in secondary school, university, or job hunting, or a young professional, we're here to help equip you with the skills you need to stand out globally in climate technology. We're all about sustainability and green technology. And that's why we're focusing on sub-Saharan Africa, because we believe the next big climate solution can come from here. And who knows, just maybe from you. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we move on, I'd love to appreciate and acknowledge the organizers of this event and our speakers who are prepared to speak to us today. Because truth be told, without them, none of this will be possible. With your permission, let's make welcome and appreciate with a round of applause Ojuma Chika, John Manua, and Maxwell Ajogu. Thank you so much for putting this epic event together. Thank you so much. Yes. How many of you are so excited for what we'll have going on for you today? I can see you're joining already. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love the energy in the room already. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, over the next 1 hour, we're going to be learning about climate health, sustainability, and climate change in general, and of course, green technology. And by the end of this event, trust me, you will be well informed on how to tap into the opportunities available in green technology. And in order to do that, we have 3 amazing speakers who are going to share with you how they've done just that. I know you want to learn and hear from them. Ladies and gentlemen, I love the energies in the room. But first, I'd like you to put your phone on silent, shut your door, remove any form of distraction, and be here with us for the rest of the event, because nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth more than being here today, because we're here to change your life for the better. Moving on to the next, we're about to get into the main reason for our gathering today. Like I said earlier, put your phones on silent, take off all forms of distraction, get your writing materials ready, because you're ready to learn from the best of the best. Now, what if I show you someone who co-created Heat Gist, an app designed to help expectant mothers adapt to extreme weather conditions like heat waves, thereby reducing the impact on both the mother and the unborn child? Our first speaker is one who literally packs a punch and epitomizes the essence and image of a champion. She's a seasoned pharmacist with over 4 years of community practice, and she's also a passionate advocate of the Sustainable Development Goals, and she has led numerous climate health projects at the community and school levels. As the project lead for several initiatives in partnership with the UN SDSN, she's been instrumental in driving solutions to combat climate health challenges. She's particularly focused on the application of innovative digital and technological solutions to promote climate adaptation, especially for vulnerable populations such as expectant mothers and children. In addition, she holds affiliations with the Institute of Health Research and Development at the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, where she conducts research aimed at improving digital health solutions for maternal and child health. Currently, she's serving as a Chief Operations Officer at Datafy Technologies, and she leads her team to optimize operational efficiency while also heading the consultancy department as a data analyst, where she provides strategic guidance and insights to businesses, including healthcare organizations. She will be speaking to us today on the effects of climate change on the health of youth in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, with a clapping ovation, let's make welcome the one and only Ojuma Chika. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you very much, Favor, and welcome everyone for joining us today, our first session. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope that before we're done with our presentation today, you would have a glimpse to what climate change is all about, what climate health is all about, and what's being done, what you can contribute as youths in Africa Um, I believe that the youths are the major forces that can drive innovation in any economy, especially in Africa, where we have more than 70%. Like in Nigeria, for example, we have about 70% of the populations as youths. That is youths under 30 years. Youths are vibrant, and they have a lot of energy. They have a lot of time to expand, to innovate and bring forth amazing things. So believe that in the next couple of minutes, hour, you would gain a whole lot. Thank you so much for joining once again. I'd like to present my slide. Please, someone help me with that. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, just like I was introduced, my name is Ojuma Chika Beauty. I'm a pharmacist, and this morning I'll be talking on the effects of climate change on the health of youths in Africa. I'd like to know from the participants if you can hear me clearly. Am I audible enough? Just drop your comments for me on the chat box. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right then. So I'll proceed now. Thank you so much. As a way of introduction, because I can't go into climate health when I have not properly explained what climate change is all about. Climate change is a buzzing topic now in the world. It's because the world has come to understand, how critical the issue is to our survival as humans, how critical it is to the survival of our planet, how critical it is to our health, and so on and so forth. What's climate change? It's the long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns caused by human activities. Um, Human activities like burning fossil fuels, which is something that is more prevalent in the Western world, we say. But even us as Africans, we are not necessarily spared from that, because we also use fossil fuels. Like in Nigeria, our major resources here is crude oil. So we are so used to burning fossil fuels. And also deforestation is another major cause, of climate change, where the areas are being brought down, trees, forests are being cut down to build cities, which is something that is happening more and more in Africa, in Nigeria. With the advent of real estate, people are coming up and saying, come and buy land here, come and buy land there, and then they are taking down all the trees, not knowing the effect of these things to the climate. And the more the population grows, the more we are going to continue to see these things happening. What are the consequences of climate change? Rise in temperature, which I'm sure every one of us must be experiencing right now. The rate at which heat in our localities was last year is something we've never seen before in in the history of humanity, where in Africa, in places like even Nigeria, temperatures were reaching up to 50 degrees Celsius, something that has never happened before in Somalia, places like that, and then people were coming down with really serious health conditions, heat strokes, and so on and so forth. So it's really critical. Rise in temperature is one of the consequences. Sea level rise, which is another major consequence, and this leads to flooding, right? When the level of the sea is high, the water flows out of the sea into cities and villages, destroying properties and what have you. destroying all of these things, displacing people, leading to rise in infectious diseases because when a place is flooded, it's a good environment for vectors to breed and multiply. Cases of cholera is on the increase. Like the challenges we are facing now, they are numerous and they are all linked to climate change. So what is climate health? Climate health is simply the study of climate change and how it affects human health. As simple as that. There is no tweak to it. And we will have two major impacts. We have the direct impact and the indirect impact of climate change to health. And yes, the development of strategies to mitigate and adapt to these effects. That is what we're looking at because we just don't want to talk about the problem. We just don't want to talk about climate change and how it's affecting us. What can we do? What can we do as the government, as nations, as individuals, as youth to adapt or to first of all mitigate these effects? And if we cannot mitigate this effect, how can we adapt, right? So that is what climate health. It's a very very interesting area. I will tell you, it's a very interesting area. And just to go a bit further, we're talking about Africa. We're focusing on Africa because we are Africans. We are in Africa. We're living here, and we're experiencing this thing even way more than the Western world, the Eastern world. We're experiencing it more, you know. And so, what really makes us vulnerable? What makes us vulnerable as people living in Africa? How are we vulnerable to? Why are we vulnerable to climate change? The effects of climate change. First of all, we are very dependent on natural resources, which we are very very aware of. I will keep referring to Nigeria because this is where I live, and our mainstay is crude oil, right? And you know, which is our major natural resources that we've been exploring or exploiting for years. And because we rely on this, we're not thinking how can we look for other solutions, green technology to um, um, just give us those things that we really need fossil fuel for, like electricity. What other sources of electricity can we have apart from fossil fuel? Because we have crude oil. We feel like that's enough, and not really taking into cognizance the effect of this thing to our society and to our health. And also we're also into rain-fed agriculture, where majority of the people in Africa who are farmers, they rely on rainfall to water their plants, to grow their crops. And many of these farmers, especially in the local areas, they don't even know what irrigation is all about. So all of these things really make us vulnerable. Also, we have limited infrastructure, just like as I was saying. Now there is an advent of green technology, solar power. Are we really looking in this direction? Are we really exploring this thing? Is the government really providing solutions for us to explore this? No. And these are things that really make us vulnerable. So I'll move on. Just an overview of what I'll be talking about, which I've already delved into. So we want to examine how climate change affects the health of youth across Africa. We want to identify the major health risks exacerbated by climate change. We want to explore policies and community-based solutions for mitigating these impacts. And so I have a map here. I hope you can see my map. Um, I hope it's large enough for you to see. And you can see that this is a map of Africa. We have countries like Somalia, we have Kenya, all of these countries where the map is dark, right? Those are more vulnerable to climate change. those are more countries that are more vulnerable to climate change. And in these countries, we are seeing, you know, heat waves, heat waves hitting these countries like never before. The amount of heat waves that was experienced last year has never happened in the history of Africa, you know, and it's really endemic in these areas of high vulnerability. Nigeria is not spared. You can see at least in the northern part of Nigeria, you can see that it's also a vulnerable place. You see the advent of, you know, deforestation, you know, droughts happening in those areas. So, yes, rising temperature, just like what I said before, Africa is warming faster than the global average. And from my research, I was able to find out that the temperature has increased by about 0.5 degrees Celsius in Africa, as against the normal range, which is zero point 0.4. So we're even doing higher than the global um, rise in temperature, which is a whole lot. It's a whole lot. Also, when we talk about rainfall variability, you know, now we're beginning to see cases of drought, just like I mentioned, in the northern parts of Nigeria, in Somalia, you see drought taking over the whole country, taking over the northern part of the country. And, you know, everyone is affected. Literally everyone is affected. Even in Nigeria, everyone is affected. Whether you're living in the northern part, whether you're living in the southern part, everyone is affected. You know, the last year I was talking to my relative, because I live here in Abuja. I was talking to my relatives in Delta State, which is, you know, the southern part of Nigeria, and, you know, I was surprised. I was thinking it was just in the north, right? But even in the south, they were complaining of the heat. Oh my God, the heat is too much. It is too much. It's killing crops. You know, people who planted crops, their crops are not surviving. These are effects of climate change. And you know, yeah, my next point there is extreme weather events, which I've already talked about, right? Floods and heat waves in Lagos. You see, you know, the kind of flooding we've not seen in the country in years in Lagos happened last year. That's to tell you that it's increasing more and more and more. Okay, so I'm checking the comments to see. Okay, all right then. So let me move on to my next slide. And you know, we've been able to establish, you know, why Africa is vulnerable. So why are we really focusing on youth? Just like I mentioned before, Africa has the world's largest youth population, right? Youths are more dependent on climate sensitive sectors like agriculture for livelihood. Africa is experiencing 70% of its populations are youths, which means the children, the the newborns, the neonates. We're talking about pregnant women, which is really a very particular topic for me. Pregnant women, expectant mothers, you know, under the age of 30, under the age of 35. You know, we're having youth, young men under the age of 35. You know, these are the people, because if we're talking about 70% of a country or 70% of a continent, you are literally talking about the whole population. What is left, right? What is left? So, you know, that is why we're focusing on youth, right? Because the demography in Africa alone is more of youth. Then we talk about the health inequalities. There's inadequate health facilities and limited access to clean water, you know, and these things, you know, exacerbate the vulnerability of the youth, you know. These facilities are not enough to cater for the needs, the health needs of youths in the country. And so, what happens when there is an outbreak of infectious disease due to climate change effects? Like, for example, let's use flooding, right? There is flooding in an area, and a lot of people are affected, and then they come down with an infectious disease, for example, cholera, which is thrives very well in areas like that where there is flooding. Do we have enough facilities, to handle these people? So these are the things that make youths even vulnerable. And I'll just move on because I think I already give my explain this example. In the Yes, let's talk about the direct impact of climate change, direct impact of climate change on the health of youth. And you've heard me mention heat waves, and you might be wondering, what is heat wave? What is this extreme weather temperature that we're talking about? Yes, so heat wave is like a prolonged stay of heat. When the temperature is high for a very long time, the temperature is high for a very long time, and you know over 40 degrees Celsius most of the times. And last year we experienced 50 degrees Celsius and above, so you can imagine. So when this temperature is sustained for a very long time, people become dehydrated, right? People become dehydrated, and it leads to heat stroke. Heat stroke comes with confusion, loss of consciousness, and in some cases seizures, and in very extreme cases deaths. In Abuja, we recorded at least a death last year from heat stroke. That is just in Abuja, which is not even in the northern part. Yes, it's in the northern part, but not in the extreme northern part of Nigeria. So when we talk about places like Kano, talk about places like Sokoto, now what are we going to say? If we're experiencing death from heat stroke here in Abuja. So that's to tell you how critical this thing is. Um, Extreme weather is simply extreme temperature. It could be extreme heat or extreme cold, right? Extreme heat or extreme cold. And yes, let me digress a little, right? If you've been watching the news, you've been seeing places like Canada experiencing 0 degrees Celsius, experiencing minus 10 degrees Celsius, where everywhere is frozen, everything is frozen, and people can literally not come out of their house because it's like death sentence. I had a friend in Canada was telling me she was outside one of those days where the temperature went to minus 10, and she was crying for her life. She was wishing she was back here in Nigeria. You can imagine how terrible it is. And these things are all tied to climate change. They are all tied to climate change. And then we'll talk about injuries, deaths, mental health effects. I'll give a perfect example of this mental health effect. Let's say, for example, you have your family in a place where flooding happens, right? What happens to you? You lose your property, you lose where to stay, you become a refugee. Let's say your certificate that you have, you've lost everything, all the properties that you've bought, your expensive TV is gone, all the things you've worked hard for years is gone. And maybe you lose one or two family members in the process of trying to rescue yourself, and you get all of those kind of bad news. What happens? It just leads directly to depression, because you're thinking, how am I going to survive? Where do I start from? Right? Where do I go from here? And few months ago, last year, I was making a research, working on effect of climate change on the health of expectant mothers, and it's something that is so serious, right? A lot of pregnant women are experiencing this, especially pregnant women in flooding areas, right? And they are experiencing this mental depression on top of it, and they are having another child. What if this, okay, let's even talk about areas where there's heat wave for expectant mothers, which are very vulnerable set of people, because they are carrying another life inside of them. So what happens when a pregnant woman is affected with heat stroke? We're talking about two lives at once. These are really critical situations. These days we're experiencing more of hurricanes, floods, and wildfires. You know, let's even talk about air quality, right? Now that we're having more cars on the road, and the exhaust coming out from these cars are polluting our atmosphere. You're going to work, you are in traffic, especially people in Lagos, in busy cities, urban areas, right? You're going to work, you are there for maybe 30 minutes, an hour, you are inhaling all of those exhausts. You are exposed to air pollution, in fact, serious air pollution. There's something we call ground zero ozone, right? Coming from that exhaust. Ozone is something that is, you know, above, like in the atmosphere, right? And it protects the ultraviolet rays that come from the sun, protects it from hitting our skin and damaging our skin, causing cancer. Now, we now have ground zero ozone, which we are now breathing in through our lungs. That is going straight to cancer, right? We are heading towards cancer. And that's why you see more cases of cancer all over the world. In Africa, lung cancer is becoming something else. In hospitals, we're witnessing more cases of lung cancers. And these are some of the reasons, right? Leading to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. Yeah. And lung cancer, just like I've mentioned, asthma, chronic bronchitis, all of these things, they are effects of, you know, this this air pollution. And also we have vector-borne diseases. Climate change change in climate rather can expand the habitats of vectors like mosquito. Oh my god, I've taken a whole lot of time. I just noticed. Yeah, so I'll try to hurry up now. So yeah, as I was saying, vector-borne diseases like mosquito vectors. They breed very well in environments like where there are natural disasters like flooding, right? Because it's a good habitat for them, and then that makes those areas more endemic to uh, malaria, right? Dengue fever, Zika virus, all these vectors, all these diseases are caused by vectors that thrive well in flooded areas. So those are some of the indirect impacts. We talk about mental health, which I've already dwelt on, so I don't think I will need to dwell on it. I've given a very good example. We talk about food and water security. When crop fails due to droughts, what happens? It leads to malnutrition and hunger. That is also a health challenge, because if you are malnourished, you are more exposed to uh, diseases, you're more exposed to infections, because your immune system is down, right? When your immune system is down, you can be hit easily. Your body can withstand those ailments that could come. So these are some of the indirect health impacts. So moving on to the next. Okay, so I had a case study here. In East Africa, we witnessed more cases of malaria. It's not just in East Africa, in West Africa as well. Higher temperatures in highland areas leading to increased mosquito activity. Droughts in the Sahel savannah, leading to rising food insecurity, affecting youth and nutrition and school attendance of children. And Yes, so what are the interventions? This is the major thing. I mean, I think in the next 5 minutes I should be done, right? This, in fact, this is the major thing that I want to talk about. What are the interventions? What are those things? What can we do? What is being done? You know, I don't think I want to follow my slide with this, so please pardon me. Right? What is being done? What are the interventions? What can we do? First of all, we talk about national adaptation plans. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard of COP 29 that happened last year. You know, every year this conferences are being held, and you know, people from all over the world who are really concerned about climate change come together to begin to think of new ways, you know, create policies that can help humanity to thrive in this climate change, right? Adapt to this climate change. So yes, that's one of the interventions have been employed right now, and it's been really effective. In these conferences, you see, you know, funds are being raised to carry out, to carry out, you know, um, policies, to make sure these policies are being implemented in different countries. The NGOs are contributing. You know, we cannot count the number of NGOs in Nigeria that, you know, help these people. I know one for sure, eHealth Africa, that's focused on climate health, you know, and food security. They go to remote areas in Nigeria, in other places of the world, in other places in Africa. They go to remote areas and see how they can curtail the effects of climate change, and make sure that, you know, the people in these environments can thrive. You know, the people in this environment can grow their crops, and then there's food security. You know, those are some of the interventions that have been implemented. We talk about international support, which we've been getting now with the advent of usage. You know, withdrawing their aid. You know, and everyone is lamenting. You know, those are some of the things, you know, that we are experiencing right now. Climate finance has been a very big help. And then, but then, while we're talking about international aid, what can we do as people, right? In Africa, we're the ones suffering, right? What can we do? Do we always have to depend when they are not willing to help us? What do we do, right? So that leads me to my recommendation. First of all, healthcare strengthening. You know, we want to be able to enhance climate resilient healthcare and development of early warning systems. How can we develop these early warning systems? We have to equip ourselves with skills that can enable us to contribute to one citizens, you know, that are prone to flooding, one citizens that are prone to drought, to hurricane, you know, systems that can be implemented, technologies that can be implemented, you know, to one, even the government of certain natural disasters that could take place. And when these systems are put in place, right, the government is one, the people are one. By the time, you know, a place that is prone to a flooding, for example, comes, you know, gets the warning on time, they can easily evacuate to those places. You know, look, maybe go stay with a relative or something, you know, and save themselves that stress of, you know, being hit by flooding all of a sudden, right? Then also again, another recommendation I would give is youth empowerment, which is something that we in climate action we're doing right now, empowering you with the knowledge, you know, promoting education of climate adaptation and support of youth advocacy. We want to be able to empower you with the knowledge of what you can do, you know, how you can come in, right? And we're not just empowering you just to let you know, we also want you to become advocates. You know, we want you to also become advocates of climate change, you know, climate change adaptation. What can you do? Lend your voice, you know, in social media, where instead of, you know, going to social media to just talk and, you know, comment on what does not really concern you, you can use that opportunity to share to people, let them know what climate change is, what they can do to prevent, some of this disaster, right? You can even use your social media as an early warning system, right? You can tell your friend, oh, I heard on the news, or I heard here that there's going to be flooding in your area, please evacuate or something, right? So you as a youth, you can do a whole lot. With the advent of green technology, you can come in, learn about green technology, implement it and improve our climate. We talk about international collaborations. You can collaborate with not just international organizations, even national organizations in your place, in your country. Collaborate with them. You have a solution. For example, last year I went through an innovation challenge where I was able to develop an app that can help pregnant women to mitigate the effects of climate change, during their pregnancy, the term of pregnancy, right? What should I do? I shouldn't just stop with my innovation. I should be able to collaborate with organizations to make sure this idea is brought to life and is able to save lives. So these are the things that I'm encouraging each and every one of us to, take up. And the other speakers will be talking more about green technology. Please, I want you to pay apt attention and learn as we go. Thank you so much. This is where I draw the curtain for my presentation. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and drop it in the comment section. Thank you. Hi, Favor.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that enlightening session. Thank you so much. I believe we now know how climate change affects the health of youth in Africa. From what she explained, I know you're pumped up already and you want to do something about it. Don't worry, we got you covered. Yes, if you're just joining us, this is the Horizons of Green Tech Africa event, and where we're talking about green technology and how you can maximize the opportunities in it. Welcome. Please, if you have questions, do well to drop them in the chat box. We'll attend to them at the end of the sessions. And yes, use the link on the pinned section of your screen to sign up for our newsletter. And you can also visit our website and reach out to us through the number on your screen for your questions or clarifications. She talked about flood, and I can totally relate to the effect of flood. About 2 years ago, I was in Bayelsa, the south part of Nigeria, and of course, I'm in Nigeria. I was in Bayelsa, and they had flood, and this flood affected the inhabitants of Bayelsa. Most persons lost their homes, they lost their apartments, and they started looking for places to stay. They had to squat with friends and other relatives who had whose places were quite secure. So these are the part of the things climate change rather does to us. But then that is why we're here today, isn't it? To talk about how we can, curb some of these issues caused by climate change using green technology. Sit back, sit tight. Remember to shut off all distractions, because our next speaker is one who is a sustainability and innovation consultant. He's a climate change advocate. He's a legal advisor, the co-founder of the Association of Nigerian Refugees Students, and he specializes in sustainable development finance, sustainable and regenerative governance, and legal frameworks. He holds a master's degree in law, digital innovation, and sustainability from Luis Guido Carli University, Rome, Italy. He has also earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in law from the University of Maroua, Cameroon, and he graduated with honors. He currently serves as a sustainability and innovation consultant at As Holding, leading projects that combine sustainability with governance and innovation. Additionally, he is the legal advisor at Climeactions, the organizing body behind this epic event. As the co-founder of the Association of Nigerian Refugee Students Volunteering for the Development of Minawao, ANRSVDM, he has played a pivotal role in empowering Nigerian refugee students in Cameroon through educational programs and mentorship. The association's initiatives are designed to enhance access to education and create lasting impact for refugee youth. He's deeply engaged with Sahel Solidarité 24, a grassroots NGO focused on climate resilience, sustainable development, and community empowerment in the Lake Chad region. He plays a crucial role in designing impactful projects. He is a passionate advocate for youth participation in climate policy and is an active member of Youth for Climate Solutions, UNDP Rome Center affiliated, and Yongo, the official youth constituency of the UNFCCC. He has authored several articles on sustainability, climate governance, and corporate responsibility, exploring topics such as global minimum task and supply chain sustainability. His work reflects a deep understanding of how legal frameworks and sustainable business practices intersect to address environmental challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we bring in John Manua, and he will be speaking to us on sustainability and climate change. You're so much welcome, sir. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, Favor. Good afternoon, viewers. You are all welcome to this wonderful event. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Can you project on the screen my slide to guide the presentation? While waiting for the slide to be projected, I just want to tell you, using the words of Apostle Paul, that silver and gold, we do not have it here at Climeactions, but what we have is the platform to collaborate and share knowledge on how to address the current global challenges. And the global challenges are not only limited to sustainability or climate change, but they are much more diverse. But we hope, as we are going to program for the next events, we are as well going to address each and every of those problems. So what we do here is contribution. As people, we want to contribute the solution to address those problems. And we cannot really do that without understanding of the strategies that we could use, and that is what we stand for at Climeaction Limited. So the first speaker spoke about climate head, and she, of course, touched on some aspects that focus on climate change as one of the main topic of discussion today. And I'm going to speak on it as well, but not that deep. But for the sustainability, I want to take us briefly to history to understand what sustainability is all about. When did this start, and why are we talking about it today? So sustainability, if I may say, is a way forward, or it seems to be the only solution that we have for the current global challenges that we have right now, which were climate change is just one of them. So the question that we should be asking ourselves really is, what is that sustainability? For the climate change, of course, by now we should have an idea of what it is, given a very wonderful presentation by the first speaker. And how does this impact us, or how does it affect us? as people or as nations. So sustainability really on its own is, from a literal understanding, is a word that has been in existence for a very long period of time. But why now is it popular? Why is it so generic? Why has it become one of the most discussed concepts or topics, both in field of academia, policy making, and even businesses? I'm very sure among us here, all of us are great minds. We might have heard of things like sustainability reporting in organizational functioning or in companies. So why are we talking about it? Why do we consider it to be so much important? But sustainability, as I've said earlier, on its own is a very simple and straightforward English word that means the ability to support or maintain a process over time. But now adapting that definition or understanding of sustainability to the current issue, they have to give it a very broader meaning. And to do that, the policymakers or the nations, they did not just now define sustainability on its own or in isolation. They have to link it to what we call today sustainable development. And sustainable development first appear in a document signed by 33 African leaders in 1969. And that was the first time that the word sustainable development appeared in an official document under the International Union for Conservation of Nature. But at that time, the word has not become so popular as it is today until 1987, when the World Development on Environment and Resources was formed to find a solution to the current problem, because the scientific research gave an overview of what the Earth, the challenges that the Earth is facing as a nature, and also the problems that people are facing. So with that understanding, the global leaders formed that body led by the then former Prime Minister of Norway, called Gro Harlem Brundtland. That's why we call the 1987 Brundtland Report, and it was named after her. And in that document, they have to define sustainable development as a development that meets the needs of today without putting in danger the needs of tomorrow. That is what sustainability is all about. And it is an answer to the question that I've asked earlier, what is it? So everything about sustainability is an advocacy on intergenerational justice. How do we do as human beings or as nation to meet our own? Like from a resource point of view, economically, socially, and environmentally, how do we have our needs as people without putting the nature into danger or our lives into danger? So the word sustainable development kept evolving until 2015, when the United Nations also came up with a report titled The Future We Want. And in that report, the Commission put up 17 goals, what we call sustainable development goals today, 169 targets, 231 indicators or measures that we could use to see how far we are going, the progress that we are making in terms of sustainable development. And if you are opportune to see the 17 goals, the 169 targets put in place by the Commission, you will discover that all those targets and goals fall under the 3 dimension or 3 pillar of sustainability. So it could be economic dimension, social or environmental one. That's why the sustainable development goals were put in order: no poverty, zero hunger, climate change, renewable energy, and many more of them, because those are the things that we need to be careful about. And once we are able to meet those targets, then it is a way out of the problem, which climate change is just one of them. So sustainable development is now the most discussed concept or topic because it is the only way out of the problem. And some of the problems were mentioned earlier by the first speaker who spoke on climate health. So now, climate change is goal 13. Is goal 13 of the 17 goals they were put up in 2015 by the nations. And climate change, I use a metaphor to consider it a monster, given the fact that the danger associated to the words is really more dangerous than it sounds. So climate change is just a change of weather pattern, but it's not just that one, because the problems are so much that if we are not careful or if we are not being sustainable as people, at the end of the day, it might consume all of us. And climate health is just one of the problems that the speaker spoke about, because we have so many other problems. And what we do here at Climeaction, just like other organization that has been put in place, is to contribute to see how do we help or how do we support the policy making body in tackling these problems that we are facing today, which climate change is just one of them. But climate change happened to be the most serious one. As we can all see, things has been happening over there, the flood, the heat wave, the wildfire, and so many other things. So sustainability is the only way out. And how can we be sustainable? Is through advocacy, through learning, like this same way that we are doing right now. Because we are here, all of us, not just to keep talking, but to see how could we provide solution for these problems that is disturbing humanity. So I'm not going to talk much about the causes and effects of climate change, because the first speaker spoke about it, and she gave us some examples, real life examples. The study, the scientific research has proven that greenhouse gas emission is just like an umbrella term, which happens to be the main contributor of climate change that we have today. Even though climate change also could occur a little bit natural on its own, but the possibility and the percentage of that is very, very low. But the climate change that we are facing today is caused by human beings. And from an environmental science point of view, we call it the anthropogenic activities of people. And if you go back to history to see very well, the climate change issue became very critical after the Industrial Revolution. Before, it was not like that, but when human beings started using heavy machine in industries and households, now the emission or the degree of gases that we are releasing to the atmosphere is so huge and enormous. So greenhouse gas emission is just an umbrella term, because the other fossil combustion, the urbanization activity, and the waste production all fall under that. And another thing that we might relate with is the issue of deforestation, the unnecessary destruction of forest or ecosystem is another contribution or causes of climate change. And why we can't talk about causes without seeing the effects. Now, with all these causes, what are the outcomes of this climate issue? One of it is a global temperature. Over the years, we have experienced a change of weather where the degree of temperature has risen very high. And if you look at the effects really do not operate in isolation, because they operate in an ecosystem. Each contributes or exhibit another one. So if there's a global temperature, the weather become extreme. And when the weather become extreme, talking maybe from a geographic point of view, they say the North Pole and the South Pole of our globe or our Earth, of our planet is experiencing a melting of ice sheet, and that leads to flood or raising sea level. And when the seas are high, there will be a flood all over places. So the effects of climate change don't really operate in isolation. They are interconnected and interrelated, all of them. So now, since we said that climate change is the problem, and how do we do about it to make sure that we put it under control before it consumes all of us? In 2015, there's what a policy document, or there was a formation that we call the Paris Agreement today on climate change. It was the United Nations Convention framework that was put in place to focus specifically on climate change, since we have said that the climate issue, just like other issue, it is one of the most disturbing one. And the policy document has set up some things or strategies that we must follow as people to address the issue of climate change. And it is a call that is not specific to a particular group of people or body. It is for all of us as human beings. And the policy document set up a target, because people who works on the commission is made up of the scientists, the policy making body, and all other people who are knowledgeable about the issue at hand. So the target was to have a temperature below the pre-industrial level, which is 1.5 degrees centigrade. So, and the documents focus on key issue: the mitigation strategy, the adaptation strategies. And we cannot really do that without having some apparatus or items to face this challenge. That's why climate finance is just one of the most important things that every year during the conference of parties, nations have been crying about it, to see how the finances could be put in place in order to address the issue of climate change. So now, as I've said at the beginning, sustainability happens to be the only way. If we want to salvage ourselves, or if we want to save ourselves from the problem, we need to be sustainable in all our dealings, from an economic point of view, social point of view, or even environmental point of view. That is very fundamental. So now we are at a point where all of us as people, we need to make a choice, whether we decide to be sustainable in all our dealings, or we should keep doing the things that we are used to keep adding or contributing to the aggravated problem of climate change. So at Climeaction, which of course we consider ourselves to be the advocate of solution, we are looking forward. And the way forward is being sustainable. And being sustainable could have a very broad meaning. So the issue of climate change could be tackled from a technology or innovation point of view. We need to come up with idea, with innovation that could help us from a technological point of view to address this issue, even from a local or crude mind way, to come up with strategies that could help us to mitigate the issue of climate change. So now the choice is us as people. I mean, I have a lot to say, but I'm going to stop here, because the next speaker is going to address some of the issue and propose, of course, some of the things that we are doing at Climeaction in order to address this problem. So now we as people need to do the right thing in order to ensure that the problem of climate change and other issues that is facing us today as humanity did not consume us. And also to make sure that the generation to come after us will meet the shape of our planet Earth in a very good state, and also to be able to live their own life for the duration of time that they are going to be here. So thank you all for listening. I'm going to stop here. Should you have any question, you can write in the comment section, and I'm going to attend to it after the presentation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John Manua. That was really an eye-opening session. You know, the take-home point for me was if we want to survive the problems we have as relating to climate change, we need to be sustainable in all our dealings. And that is why we're here today, right? To talk about how to maximize the opportunities in Green Tech Africa while helping solve the problems of climate change. If you've been following us, kindly describe this session how was this session for you? I'd like to hear from you in the comment section. Describe this session in one word. For me, it was enlightening and eye-opening. I'd like to hear from you in the comment section. Okay, and if you're just joining us, you're welcome to the Horizons of Green Tech Africa event organized by Climeactions. And yes, pin section of subscribe to our newsletters and put your questions in the chat box. We'll attend to all questions at the end of the session. You can also visit our website using the link on your screen below. I believe the session is getting hot already, and you've heard from our first speaker who spoke to us on the effect of climate change on the youth of Africa. And you also heard from our second speaker who opened our eyes to sustainability and climate change. And now, up next is our keynote speaker who will be speaking to us on the how of green tech. You've heard a lot and you're like, okay, so how do I do this? How? Don't worry. Our next speaker is going to take us through that. How many of you would like to know how to move from challenges to champions? I want to see your hand in the comment section. Signify in the chat box how to move from challenges to champions. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, guess what? Our keynote speaker is one whose knowledge in economic, social, and environment sustainability spans through 6 years of active involvement in the sustainability sector. He's a member of the Economy of Francesco International Organization. He's a project developer under the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, a volunteer participant at the Youth for Climate Solutions UNDP Rome Center affiliated, alumni of International Training Center of the International Labour Organization, Global Youth Forum trainees, member and captain of Green Tech Revolutionaries for Africa. He holds a master's degree in sustainability management at the ancient LUMSA University, Rome, and a Bachelor of Engineering in Materials and Metallurgy. He is the Executive Director at Climeactions Limited, the one who has gathered us all here together. And today, he's going to be speaking to us on how to move from challenges to champions. By now, I'm expecting the comment section to be filled with so much energy and fire emoji. Thank you. Join me as I make welcome Ajogu Maxwell Emmanuel.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Favor. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. And I'd like to know if you all can hear me very well. Let me know in the comment section if you can hear me loud and clear. If not, I can speak much louder. I can see your response yet. Can you hear me very well? Oh, that's right. I get an in-house response. I get an in-house response. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'd like to share my slide for this presentation. Okay, yeah, I can see your responses. I'd like to share my slide and okay, Before we delve into this, I'd like us to just make a little exercise. It's been a while. We've been here. Just anywhere you are, where you're seated, where you're standing, where you're walking, I just like us to make a little exercise. Stretch your arms, your arms. Kind of rotate, like roll your right hand, your right shoulder, your left shoulder. I just like you to exercise your body, stretch your neck. Oh my God. I've been sitting here, been learning, and it seems so discomfort. I feel better. What about you? I want to know in the comment section as well. How do you feel after doing this exercise? I know you've been here, you waited, like you've been on the stream, you've been really curious. Let me know how you feel right now after doing this exercise. And I'll go back to my slide. The topic of my presentation, from challenges to champions: green technology as a catalyst to Africa's sustainability breakthrough. At the end of this presentation, listeners are expected to have understood the definition of green technology, the types of green technology and the global scenarios, optimism and opportunities and challenges of green technology, the solutions to key issues that will be discussed, and of course, the call to action. The evolution of information technology in the mid-20th century has seen a rapid rise through different stages over decades, down to the modern stage of digital transformation. When you talk about the information technologies such as the data science, software development, cybersecurity, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and more. The rapid rise of these technology gave the conception to these thought. It gave the conception to what we call green technology. And what is green technology? And as a lover of green technology, I made my research on many definitions of green technology, and I fell in love with the definition from Investopedia, and it says green technology can be, or climate technology, technology is considered to be environmentally friendly based on its production process and its supply chain. And when you talk about green technologies, of course, you'll be talking about, of course, green energy is on the top chart. You talk about electric mobility, you talk about green construction, we talk about sustainable waste management. When you talk about climate smart agriculture and lots more, these are green technology. But let me tell you, my friends, when you think about green technology, or when you hear about green technology, you do not need to think or you do not need to think about green technology as a technology that's out of reach, and out of sight, or insurmountable. I tell you, my friends, green technology resides next to you. The rainwater collection closest to you in your building today is an art of green technology. And green technology has come to play to become effective to protecting our environment in modern age. And we're going to go into talking about green technology gradually, one after the other. I'd like to take us to my next slide. Look at this image on this slide of an electric vehicle using a battery technology powered by a renewable source of energy. This mobility example is or this mobility system is a pure example of what we call sustainable transportation. A sustainable transportation means. And when you talk about transportation, the transportation sector is one of the largest contributors to global greenhouse gas emission. According to this greenhouse gas emission accounts for approximately 24% of carbon emissions worldwide. Traditional combustion engine known as the ICE vehicles rely on fossil fuels like gasoline and diesel, which in turn release significant amount of carbon into the air. But when you check on the flip side of this, when you look at this technology here, this technology you're seeing on this image here of an electric vehicle powered by a renewable source, you see that adopting the electric vehicles powered by batteries instead of fossil fuels has the potential to significantly reduce these emissions and promote what? Cleaner air. And this is a very optimistic technology. A very optimistic technology that, if adopted, can cause a very brilliant positive impact on the environment. As you all know, the petrol and diesel engine vehicles contributes to a lot of air pollution. It pollutes the air, it emits carbon into the air, and just like the previous speakers rightly said, you had the previous speakers talking about the effects that carbon, or the effect that carbon emission can have on humans and the environment already. And of course, since you've heard a lot about that, I would not be going so deep into that when things that talk about the direct effects on humans, because the first speaker has spoken about the direct effects on humans, and Betana, and she spoke about how these greenhouse gases come back to affect directly or indirectly humans, and especially women, expectant mothers. We had the second speaker spoke about climate change. Greenhouse gas constitutes heat waves. Like they generate heat waves that comes back to haunt our environment, heating up our oceans, causing floods and droughts, the hurricanes and the wildfires. And why are these things? Everyone is talking about carbon emission. How are these carbons emitted? A simple petrol car driving or transport, or a simple petrol car transporting people on the road from destination A to location B automatically emits numerous quantity of carbon into the air that comes back to haunt us. And this technology, as you see on the screen, is been invented as a solution to this problem. So it is an optimistic technology that is very promising. This technology is very durable. And the surprising thing, and I know you're going to be surprised, and you ask me any question you want, and it is cheaper. It is relatively cheaper in considering the long term to the ICE. When I mean ICE, I mean internal combustion engine vehicles on the road today, on the roads today. Now, what does electric vehicles mean to human and the environment? And this is a very important question to ask. Sorry. What does it mean to the environment and humans? I remember when I was still much more younger and I had to resume back to my boarding high school. My father would drive me from home to school. And oh my God, I still remember how comforting that was. You know, how comforting it is when your father would drive you from home to school. That comfort, that care of a father, you feel that care, that love. And it was so much fun, except the fact that you would be thinking, I'm leaving home and I'm not going back home. Like, I'm not going to enjoy that food, I eat from my mother. But aside that, let us consider the environmental impact. My father drives a petrol Peugeot car. He drives me about 100 kilometers from home to school. And it is estimated that a petrol engine car will emit up to 250 grams of carbon per kilometer, which means that for only myself to resume school, I would have to emit up to 2,500 grams of carbon into the air. That's for only me, amongst the about 1,000 students that we have in school. And that's for only just my school. There are hundreds of schools within my states, or within my state. And that's for only just my state. There are thousands of high schools within the country. I'm from Nigeria. And you can say that on and on and on and on globally. So you can see that human activities, the natural human activities that we find ourselves carrying out on a daily basis, doing every day, it directly or indirectly impacts the environment. It impacts the environment in different ways. And while I would want to just go to my next slide, because I have a lot to say, but I would want to go to my next slide because this topic is so dear to me, because I for one believe that this technology, if really managed, could really impact the environment that we live today. But then, having said all of this, it brings me to a very important question. Can we phase out ICE vehicles in Africa? And while this is a very critical question to ask, you see countries like Norway leading, the world in terms of electric vehicle adoption, with all electric vehicles constituting approximately 91.6% of new passenger vehicles. It is a near perfect adoption of electric mobility in terms of passenger vehicles in Norway. And it is not surprising why the sustainability report from Norway is so rich. And you can talk about countries like Switzerland as well, doing really great in adopting green technologies. Ethiopia became the first, country in Africa to ban the import of gasoline and diesel vehicles as of January 2024. And their aim is to try and promote, their aim is to try and promote sustainable mobility. There is to try and help people to implement green technology in terms of mobility. That is not a surprise when further research would tell you that right now in Africa, we're expecting to reach, 3,690 vehicles by 2029 that are effectively that are sustainable. So by 2029, we're expected the unit sales of electric vehicles in Africa are expected to reach 3,690. But then, my friends, while this is still a low number compared to what we have in Africa in terms of mobility availability in Africa, it tells us that it gives me that momentum. It tells me that yes, we can. Of course, we can. If countries like Norway can go to this level, 91% adopting green mobility, up to 91% passenger vehicles, of course, yes, we can, Africa. Because this number has told me it is meant to be worked upon. So it depends on how we implement our policies, channel our focus, and work our energy towards achieving this technology. I'll go to my next slide and I'll talk to you about climate smart agriculture. Hello, my friends. Before the invention of climate smart agriculture, farming depends mainly on traditional agriculture, that labor-intensive method of farming that depends solely on natural factors like weather, soil fertility, and seasonal cycles. For a farmer to go to farm and produce a crop, that farmer had to wait for a specific seasonal cycle to make his crop or to farm. It would depend on that seasonal cycle to another seasonal cycle to come to do the next thing. If you want to stake, if you're cropping a yam, if you want to stake, you have to wait for a particular season to stake. If you want to plant, you have to wait for a particular season to come before you plant. Before the invention of climate smart agriculture, we have what we call unpredicted crop yield due to limited access to scientific knowledge, precise data, and advanced techniques for managing pests, diseases, and water resources. They were very much unpredicted. And you see farmers making decisions solely based on experience. You see farmers only make decisions based on what they experienced last year. Like this was what it was last year when it was November last year. The weather was like this, and we were able to plant this, and we were able to get B. But the flip up of climate change does not allow that anymore. It could be A in 2024, in 2025, it could be B. So traditional farming, what it was before climate smart farming came into play, is no longer what it is. And the more reason why you keep on having low productivity, in terms of agriculture. And while I wouldn't want to get so deep into that, I would continue to my next slide. The modern invention in climate smart agriculture. Climate resilient agriculture is emerging as a transformative solution to resilient crop production in a constantly changing climate, with unpredictable weather, prolonged droughts, and severe floods unfavoring traditional farming, leading to decreased crop yield and food insecurity. What does this tell us? Currently you have climate smart agricultures like Internet of Things in the form of sensors and drones that collects real-time data, of soil fertility, temperature, humidity. It collects real-time data of these crops, and then machine learning and data analytics is being used to analyze these data, while smart farming applications sends information to farmers as to potential farm infestation or whatever threats that may come, helping farmers, to take proactive measures. You have things like vertical farming, where crops are grown in stocked layers, minimizing land use. This farming uses LED climate smart systems, and it is very much more advantageous. You also have things like the hydroponic farming. And this hydroponic farming technology can just come, like it was invented and say, okay, if we are having challenges with soil fertility, weather condition, etc., then let us design a technology that uses only nutrient-rich solvents to grow crops. Hydroponic farming uses only solvents to grow crops. You don't need to check your soil fertility anymore to grow a crop. You can grow a crop right there in your neighborhood. Farmers can now do not need to travel several kilometers burning fossil fuels to go to farms anymore. You can farm next to you, next to your building. We have things like blockchain technologies that improves absolute confidence to consumers of agricultural products. Imagine you walking into a restaurant today, you serve the meal, and then with blockchain technology, you can easily trace from farm to table what you are just about to consume or what you have just consumed. Block technology offers that. Blockchain technology, I mean. The CRISP gene editing is a modern invention in climate technology. This CRISPR gene editing helps to modify the gene of crops to adapt to different technologies, to adapt to different weather conditions. So I cannot be living in region A, and because the weather in region A does not allow me to farm cocoa or yam, or do not allow me to farm riso. This gene editing technology will modify the gene of that crop to the weather condition available in that region to allow its production. So CSA farming has offered us a lot that we can not undermine. And when you talk about oh my God. And when you talk about what climate technology, offers us, it offers year-round production. So with climate technology, you are guaranteed to farm all year round without considering weather condition or whatever. You are guaranteed, improved agricultural production in terms of the products that you can have in a secular year. It has lots and lots more advantage that, of course, I would want to skip because I still have a number of slides to go. I'll take you to what we call the carbon capture storage system. And hello, my friends. If we are talking about carbon emission, everyone is talking about carbon emission. This is what carbon emission is done to the environment and all of that and all whatnots. Why can't we just find a solution to just take this carbon away from the environment and let everyone go to sleep? That gave birth to this technology, the carbon capture storage system. This technology involves capturing carbon, from the industrial sources such as power plants and factories, and storing them on the ground to prevent them from entering the atmosphere. And when you think about this technology, you'd easily relate it with what we call a direct system of thinking. If all of this system thinking that we are trying to implement is delaying or is not meeting up targets, why don't we apply this direct system of thinking? And this technology, and this technology has really opened the eyes of people to what is really possible. And I'll take you to my next slide of what this carbon capture technology really has to offer. And I'll go to my next slide. I'm sorry. Okay, this carbon capture technology has three main stages. It has the carbon capture stage, the carbon transport stage, and the carbon storage stage. The carbon capture stage involves capturing the carbon from the industrial sources. The transport stage involves converting this captured carbon into liquid forms and transporting them through pipes, ships, or trucks down to a storage site. And then the third stage involves storing them beneath the earth. This carbon have been stored beneath unminable coal seams, and I'll get to that later. But when we let's go back to the first stage of the carbon capture. The first stage of carbon capture involves three major processes or three major methods of capturing. And the first one is the pre-combustion capture, where the CO2 is removed before the fossil fuel are burned. Post-combustion capture, where CO2 is extracted from flue gases after fossil fuels have been burned using chemical solvents like amines. The oxy-fuel combustion, is where the fossil fuels are burned in pure oxygen instead of air. And the reason is to produce a flue gas where mostly, the CO2, that features mostly the CO2, making it easier to capture. Let me take you away from this, and I take you to what we call another traditional thinking of carbon capture storage, called the DAC, the direct air capture. People started thinking, okay, if I know about the processes of capturing carbon from the industrial sources and stuff like that, now how about this existing carbon in the atmosphere already that's giving us all these problems? Let's devise a technology and capture it. The direct air capture gives us that technology, is that technology that gives us that access to capture this carbon directly from the air using fans and chemical solvents to capture carbon directly from the air and transport them to be deposited directly beneath the earth. It takes us to the challenges where people started thinking, okay, if all this technology is okay, because questions are always going to be asked. And people started asking, look, these stored carbon, while you store all this carbon beneath the air, what are the threats? Like, does this carbon have future threats to humans? When you store this carbon beneath the earth, does it pose any future threats? And while this technology is a very effective technology and it is meant to really impact the environment positively, this technology is a game changer. It's a game changer as it goes down to store this carbon beneath the earth, and what we call unminable coal seams. You know what coal is and how negative coal production or coal mining can be to the environment already. These carbon are stored beneath coal seams. A lot of details to go, and of course, I still have a couple of slides, so I have to go to the next slide. Green construction. Green construction, my dear friends, look at this image here. Many people think about green building. You can call it green construction or green building. So when I refer to green building, I still talk about the same thing. Many people refer to green building as a building that is painted in green or covered with greens. My dear friends, while buildings that are covered in greens are actually a feature of green building, I'm telling you, it does not define green building. It does not define what green building actually is. Green buildings or sustainable structures, as you may want to call it, is a unique structural design or pattern which focuses mainly on energy efficiency, water conservation, waste reduction, and the application of eco-friendly materials in its construction. What does that say to us? Green buildings are energy efficient structures. They are resource efficient in terms of, we call them standalone buildings, in the sense that it generates its own energy, it manages its own resources in terms of water conservation. We are going to talk about that again, and it recycles its own products. its own resources. You would want to talk about the features of green building. What are the features of green building? My friends, the central vacuum system, the properly sized mechanicals, central dehumidification, high quality insulation and ceiling, photovoltaic panels, energy efficient low E windows and glasses, light colored exterior walls, solar panels, rainwater collection, and native planting. And of course, you heard me well, rainwater collection and native planting. As this rainwater collection is a very good feature as it manages its water resources. Native planting, of course, as you know, the trees around the houses and the greens around the houses helps to absorb the carbon emitted from these built environments. We call these technologies environmental refinery. They are called environmental refineries in the sense that they absorb carbon from the built environment and emit oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. As you all know, the process of photosynthesis already. Trees or leaves absorb carbon through that process and emits oxygen. And because of time, I wouldn't want to go into the details. Now take a look, my friends. These three structures. You see, as compared to the green building image here, you see the first building at the top, describing a typical African urban structure, an urban building. And as you can see from this building, it has some features, of green technology in it. As you can see, a fully designed rainwater collection in it. But then you can see that there are no forestation around this building, because this building exists because deforestation had to have happened for this building to have stand in an urban space. If you look at this second building, you see a semi-urban or something between the urban and the rural setting. And from this structure, you can see that this building is not energy efficient, just like the urban setting. It's not energy efficient. It doesn't have rainwater it does not have rainwater management or water resource management efficiency. You can talk about ventilation, it doesn't. But then you can see traces of natural forestation around it. And you can see that you can say the same thing for the next building, where you see a rural setting in an African built environment. It's not energy efficient. Ventilation is pretty poor, but then you can still see that these buildings has forestation around it that can really actually absorb these carbons. And and there are still a lot, features of what attributes a green building. So the question here, how far away are we from a built environment? And the answer is yes, we are still way long, but then the features are not insurmountable. It's something we can actually achieve. I would, again, I'll still beg to go to my next slide. I know you're bored, but I'll still beg to go to my next slide because of time. Before I go into this, green energy, let us come back, my friends, to our previous exercise. It's been a tiring day. We've been here for a long time. Can we all just do a little exercise? let's do that. I'm tired. Like my arms are aching. I really want to just, yeah. Oh my God, I feel so better. Why don't you do that? And let's get on the train again. As I share my slide. Green energy. Oh my God, sorry. Okay. Green energy refers to energy derived from renewable natural sources that have minimal environmental impacts. And I'm going to run you just quickly through this because this is my last, this happened to be my last topic or subtopic of presentation. I'm going to run you really quick through it. This image here, as you can see, shows us a conventional renewable energy ratio globally of the global energy generation mix. And you can see that crude oil constitutes the largest portion of energy generation. It constitutes up to 34%, while coal takes up the next at 28% and natural gas 22%. But we have renewable energy as 13%. And then let's go to this chart here. And on my chart here, we have that the International Energy Agency proposed or gave a proposition in 2021 and said, like, solar photovoltaics is going to overcome sources of energy like coal, gas, wind, hydro energy in 2040. Like, solar photovoltaics has the potential to overcome all these energy generation mix by in 2040, up to 3,000 gigawatts, so to say. But this will be achieved only if the current policies in existence are fully implemented. And just like I said, we've taken a long time, and I'll take you to my next slide. This slide shows you the green energy mix, the socioeconomic impact on the global stage. And this shows you, this chart shows you the population, employment, and GDP ratio of energy generation globally in different regions. As you can see, we have the first region as rest of Asia, East Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, down to North America, the rest of Europe, down to the Oceania. It shows you the ratio of the population, the employment rates, and the GDP produced. Is it a surprise, my friends, that Sub-Saharan Africa constitutes the poorest ratio to employment per population? It contributes the poorest ratio to GDP per employment per population. And on the flip side of it, when you look at North America has an even distribution of employment and population, and even a very higher rate of GDP. The GDP is in North America per population and is highest. What does this simple chart tells you and I today? It tells us that adopting green energy alone can affect or improve the gross domestic product of each country in Africa and the continent at large. It can improve employment. It can improve the sustainability in Africa, especially the regions that has been centered here. Now you would want to look at the prospect in clean energy transition in the continent. My friends, I'll show you this, what Africa is made of in terms of prospect. The continent has the highest solar irradiance level globally. Ideal, so much more ideal for solar power generation. The coastal regions of Morocco, South Africa, have significant wind energy potentials that is capable of generating a massive energy from the wind source. You have the River Congo, Nile, and Zambezi for large-scale hydropower projects. East Africa Rift Valley holds substantial geothermal resources, with countries like Kenya leading development. My friends, Africa possesses all these resources, yet we have the least ratio of GDP by employment per population. I can go on and on to speak, but I've spent a lot of time and I wouldn't want to keep you here for all day. I'll go to my next slide. And when we talk about the problems that comes with renewable energy in terms of the high energy demand, as per when you talk about the population in the place, or when you talk about the high initial investment cost, which certainly has a very good long-term, it is very sustainable in the long term. And then you want to talk about the incentives and subsidies that are really not seen, that are really not invested in the African setting. You want to talk about the advanced energy storage that are not available. You want to talk about the aging power grid, the aging power grids. You want to talk about the awareness and education about green energy benefits, which is something that we are doing here right now. But then, on the other hand, you want to look at the importance of green energy and what it offers to us, as in the reduction in carbon emission and air pollution, the conservation of natural resources, creation of green jobs and in installation and maintenance, development of new industries and markets. It provides energy security, advancement in solar panels, wind turbines, and battery technologies. My dear friends, there are a lot more benefits one could always talk about when you talk about green energy and what it has to offer to our sphere, to our settings, and to our community. In subsequent times, we're going to take a deep dive into all of this gradually. But my question to you, I know I'm going to be receiving questions from you, but I have a question for you. Having all of this deposited naturally, why are we here? Answer me in the comment section. Why are we here? I'll take you to my next slide. And this is the summary and the summation of my slide. And I know I've taken a lot of time, but I'll be rounding up now. Climate technology solutions. And we've looked at many solutions already. We've talked about things like climate smart agriculture, how hydroponic farming will not necessarily mean you looking for a fertile land to farm. You can farm right there next to you using chemical solutions. We talked about vertical farmings. We talked about things like we talked about blockchain technology. We spoke about things, electric mobility and how it affects us, what it brings to us. We spoke about green buildings, the solutions that they bring to us. Green buildings actually constitute up to 40% of greenhouse gas emission. So imagine what adopting green buildings in an African setting can mean to the environment. We talked about native planting. And while I didn't want to waste your time telling you the story about how my father taught me the advantages of the reasons why green planting or he taught me green planting and why it is necessary. But I wouldn't want to go deep into that again because of time. We've spoken about different solutions. Now, why can't we adopt this? This is why I take you to my next slide, the practical actions. We are here to help individuals gather. We're here to bring people to the space of green technology. We're here to direct people, actions to take, skills to engage in, and what to do, not just to study about green technology. Our vision as a company is to see where young Africans will get involved in developing these green technologies, being the frontliners, being the innovators, being the developers of green technologies. That is where we want to start from. And by taking these practical actions, my dear friends, I'd like you all to have a rethink. It's a thing of the mind. It's a thing of the, it has to do with your will. It has to do with your activeness, what you want to do. And whom are we really talking to? Are you still in the high school? A very good potential. Yes, you are. You are a very good potential. Are you an undergraduate? Yes, you are. A very good potential. A university graduate? Yes, you are. A very good potential. A professional already? Yes, you are a very good potential, as we aim to even add to your skills, to even give you a second line of thought, to be able to act and add, implement, and become a developer, an innovator of green technologies in the African setting. I've been complaining about time, and I've timed myself. I've timed myself before, and I know I've exceeded my time. But then, if you really want to get involved, what are you waiting for? Visit our website. Sign up to the newsletter that we'll be distributing. Get involved. And even though I have a lot to say, things to say, a lot to try to lecture, I hope that you have taken home some key facts from these lessons. And really, again, just in a recap, I really want to highlight what you have heard before, what you've listened to before on climate health, how climate change affects the health of humans, narrowing it down to maternal health, down to when a second speaker tells you about the effects, like what sustainability really is, the origin of sustainability, and all that has to come with it, climate change and everything, details, giving you in-depth details that you need to know. What are you waiting for? Let's take the action now. The time to take the action is now. Sign up on this website, right there below your screen. to the newsletter, and let's get going. And I'll leave this presentation here, and I'll be welcoming all the questions. If you have got any question, if you've got questions in any form, I'll be welcoming your questions, and I hope that all your questions are going to be addressed accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maxwell, for that eye-opening and educating session. I know you've learned a lot, just as I have, because my notes are full. Like, there's been a lot of knowledge, and thank you so much, Mr. Maxwell, for that one. One key takeaway for me is that green technology resides next to you. There's no need of looking far. Don't think it's something strange or something. I mean, it is just there with you. And I believe now you know more about green technology, climate change, and you want to join our community. So please, if you have questions, do well to put them in the chat box. It's now time for our question and answer. Our speakers will take your questions now. Use the chat box to ask your questions. Okay. While that is ongoing, please visit our website using the link on your screen to sign up for our newsletter. And once again, I want to use this opportunity to thank you so much for sticking with us till this moment. You've been amazing. And I know it was worth your time. Yes. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. We're taking questions now. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. Okay. Yeah, please ask your questions in the chat box. We're taking questions now. So everyone, it's been an amazing time with you. And we've learned about how climate change affects the health of African youths. We've also learned more about sustainability and climate change. And more importantly, we've learned about green technology, and we've been made to understand that it is not anywhere far from us. It is there with you. And there are so many things you can actually do to reduce the negative effect of climate change to youths in Africa, while also maximizing the opportunities of green technology in Africa. And one of the ways to do that, to join our community and to become more informed about what we do and how to go about green technology and how to maximize the opportunities in green technology, use the website, use the link to the website on your screen, and sign up for our newsletters to get updated on green technology and everything we do. You can also send us your inquiries to info@climeactions.com or send a WhatsApp message to the number on your screen. Thank you so much once again for joining me. I really had a great time with you, and I'm sure you do too, because from the energy to the lessons, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your active participation too. Thank you very much. I remain Chimnecherim Favor LSC. And until next time, sign up to our newsletters and join us to be updated with everything you need to know about green technology. Thank you so much once again. I'll see you in the next time. Bye.